seen you looking so lovely as you did tonight.
Sometimes, all an artist needs is an image for inspiration. In Chris de Burgh's case, it was the moment he saw his wife in red smiling.
Lady in red.
Lady in Red was written out of love and ended up becoming the biggest hit of Chris de Burgh's career. But who was this man, with a sophisticated name and a gentle voice, who crossed borders without ever truly becoming a global star? Chris was born in Argentina. He spent his childhood in several countries and began his career singing to guests at a castle in Ireland. Even after achieving fame, he went through tough times. He almost lost his wife during a complicated pregnancy, and doctors told him he would never become a father. But what happened next was nothing short of a miracle. With over 45 million records sold and hits like Don't Pay the Ferryman and A Spaceman Came Travelling, Chris built a solid career. But to this day, it's Lady in Red that makes the world remember him. Today, you're going to discover the story behind the voice that touched millions of hearts. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Here, I always share powerful stories about the artists who made history. So let's begin. The story of Chris de Burgh feels like it was taken straight out of an adventure novel. He was born in the city of Venado Tuerto in Argentina in 1948 and spent his childhood in countries like Malta, Nigeria, and England before settling with his family in Ireland at the age of 12. The son of a British diplomat and an Irish mother, from whom he inherited his stage surname, Chris carried in his veins a blend of cultures and landscapes that would later influence his emotionally rich lyrics. But it was in the south of Ireland, inside a 12th century castle, that the dream began to take shape. The castle, purchased by his grandfather on his mother's side, had been transformed into a hotel. And there, still a teenager, Chris would grab his guitar and play at night for the guests. I was 14 or 15 and just discovering girls for the first time, and all was looking good. In the evenings, there wasn't a lot to do in those days. I used to sing to the guests night after night, and I did hundreds and hundreds of these concerts before I even stood on a professional stage, he told the Montreal Gazette. The truth is, Chris never dreamed of becoming a music star when he was a teenager. Back then, playing guitar and singing was just a hobby. He even graduated with a degree in arts, studying English and French at the renowned Trinity College in Dublin. His plan was to work at a bank, or maybe become a teacher. Music at that point was just for fun. He started singing at a burger joint, and that's when he felt something different. He decided to take a chance and move to London, hoping to land a record deal. It was with A&M Records that he released his first album, Far Beyond These Castle Walls, in 1974, a direct reference to the castle he had once called home.
Watching the sky, I'm just a sitting down. Write down the words about how you cried when you were rest. Your weary soul, lay your head upon my shoulder.
But building a music career wasn't that easy. In a 2022 interview with a German newspaper, Chris said that his relatives from his mother's side, who were mostly generals and admirals, found the idea of being an artist completely illogical. Even so, he persisted. When my parents saw me singing on TV for the first time, they realized it was a real dream. Living in a castle with no electricity, sleeping in the hallways in sleeping bags might sound crazy to many, but for Chris, it was pure inspiration. Years later, he would turn that experience into songs like The Ghost of Old King Richard, where he imagined a king wandering through the halls of the old childhood castle. In 1975, Chris released Spanish Train and Other Stories, the album that won over Canada. In Montreal, he became a legend. You know what happens if I walk out on stage in Montreal? They stand up and they cheer for 3 or 4 minutes. It just brings tears to your eyes because it's a love affair. Over the years, Chris managed to build a solid career. Nearly 5 decades of dedication to music led to more than 300 songs written, 23 studio albums, 9 compilation albums, 4 live albums, and 66 singles released. It's true that in such a long career, none of his songs ever reached the same global impact as Lady in Red. Still, Chris had several other moderate hits, like Don't Pay the Ferryman, High on Emotion, A Spaceman Came Travelling, Missing You, and Fatal Hesitation, all of which reached the top 40 in multiple countries. Not to mention Love Is My Decision, a beautiful romantic ballad featured in the soundtrack of the film Arthur II on the Rocks, once again showcasing Chris's gift for turning emotion into music.
Pay the ferryman. Don't even think, say price. When 2,000 years of your time has gone by, this song and the time we had just dancing as Romeo is standing in the rain. Love is my decision. Forever living here.
Lady in Red remains the song that crossed borders, marked special moments for couples in love all over the world, and most of all, changed Chris's life forever. But do you know the story behind the song? At the time Lady in Red was released, Chris was no newcomer. Since 1974, he had been putting out albums, touring, and trying to find his place in the music industry. But there were no major hits. Everything changed with this song that, at first, he himself wasn't all that confident about. Lady in Red was written almost by accident, after an argument with his wife. Chris already had part of the lyrics in his head, but it lacked direction, it lacked emotion. Then, one day, at a formal event, he saw his wife wearing a red dress, and she smiled at him from across the room. The kind of smile that feels like it was meant just for you. That was the spark. It was the emotion he needed. Chris wrote about that feeling of rediscovering someone you love, of looking at the person who's been by your side for so long, and suddenly seeing them as if it were the first time. I have never seen that dress you're wearing or that highlight in your hair, the song says. An honest confession from someone who realizes he's been distracted, who stopped noticing the obvious, and then he sings, I have been blind.
The lady in red is dancing with me, and her husband, cheek to cheek. There's nobody here, there's nobody here.
Even though Chris didn't think it was his best work, not even the best track on the 1986 album Into the Light, Lady in Red took the world by surprise. Not even the record label believed in it. It wasn't chosen as the lead single. But once it was released, it became a phenomenon. #1 in the UK, Ireland, Norway, Belgium, and Canada, and #3 in the United States. It's true that critics weren't always kind. Many said that the song was overly sentimental, lacking subtlety, with a simple melody and excessively romantic lyrics. But maybe that's exactly why it touched so many people, because there are feelings we experience but don't know how to express, and Lady in Red does it for us. But success came at a price. In the United States, where the album Into the Light sold 500,000 copies and was certified gold, Chris was labeled a ballad singer. Some even called him the Irish Barry Manilow, and that bothered him, because outside the US, he was known as a pop rock artist with energetic, sold-out concerts. My concerts are 2 hours long, and there's hardly anything in the set list that sounds like Lady in Red, he said.
Never seen you looking so lovely as you did tonight. I've never seen
Behind the artist who charmed the world, there's a family man, deeply in love with his wife, proud of his children, and delighted by his grandchildren. Chris de Burgh has always made it clear how much he values time at home, away from the spotlight. Married to Diane since 1978, they faced one of their greatest challenges within the first years of their marriage. In 1982, she suffered a severe ectopic pregnancy. She was alone in Dublin while Chris was in England recording an album. A friend of the couple, who happened to be a doctor, found Diane just in time and rushed her into emergency surgery. She had lost nearly 5 liters of blood. Had she been found just 30 minutes later, she wouldn't have survived. The surgery was extremely delicate, and the diagnosis was alarming. Only a 5% chance of ever having children. It was a devastating shock for the couple, who had always dreamed of starting a family. But then, the unlikely happened. The following year, Diane became pregnant again, and in April 1984, Rosanna was born, a true miracle. Later came Hubie and Michael. For Chris, each birth was a blessing, and he never forgot that day in 1982. As he often says, the angels were smiling on us that day. Today, with his children grown, Chris takes pride in what he's built and often reflects on the journey he's taken. It was more than 12 years of struggle, opening for other artists, traveling the world, often with little in return. But he never gave up. He fought, believed, persisted. And now, at age 76, he feels that his cup has overflowed. And that's why he makes a point of sharing his success with everyone who's been by his side. From the band to his personal assistant, everyone receives his gratitude. When asked what his greatest achievement is, he doesn't mention gold records, international hits, or sold-out arenas. He answers simply, "I'm a caring person. I'm a good dad. I'm a loving husband and grandfather," he said. "I feel very fortunate to have had the life I had. But my God, I fought for it." And maybe that's why his music resonates with so many people, because behind the singer, there's a real man. Did you already know the story of Chris de Burgh and the origin of Lady in Red? Which other songs or albums by Chris do you love that weren't mentioned here? Leave your comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you're notified whenever a new video drops. I'll be back next week with more fascinating stories from the world of music.